talk over walking. I know that there is going to be a drill for the students very soon. So in the drills, we hope to impart knowledges about self-rescue for the students. Exactly. When the earthquake hits, I will teach the students how to respond. There are two types of measures. One, if you're standing right here and the earthquake happens, there will be shaking, like the windows will be squeezed and the glasses may break. So it will be dangerous for you to walk right outside the high buildings. The glasses may fall upon you. That's going to be harmful. So by that you mean if we want to save ourselves, if we are standing outside, we shall stay in the open air, not around the high buildings, like below the high windows. I highly recommend you go to the open air, open space, like the playground. That I know now. Mr. Zhou just talked about some possibilities. For example, the steel structure, like the poles for hanging the clothes, and the flagpole, and that big screen. They were all dangerous items. They may fall down. So we advise the students to stay away from those items, and also there will be severe shaking. Everything is unsteady, so everything may fall apart. You may get hurt from them. Now we learn that we can tour around our surroundings, particularly those high buildings, so that we have a preliminary idea about the dangerous places, like the trees, the poles, and the structures hanging on the outside of the buildings. It's only relative safety, not absolute safety. Now let's enter into the building. I assume there will be some corridors within the buildings for self-rescue. Yes, the schools will organize the students for the drills of escaping from earthquake, and they have a contingency plan. They even have some tutors. During the Wenchuan earthquake, there was one middle school in the county, and 2,300 faculties were completely safe. They escaped within the first 90 seconds. They did full preparation and had a master plan, or have a lot of drills. I understand. When we are learning this knowledge, we shall try to put those knowledge into practices like the earthquake drillings. I guess that's why this school is practicing the drills every month. I'm really looking forward to the drill, because I hope to learn the knowledge as well. After the lecture, the drill is to follow. That's a very good way of practicing the knowledge. So which class shall we go into? The 8th graders. That's like the 3rd year in junior high. because the 8th grade classroom was in floor 3. And also this is an old building. It's an ideal place for the drills. You could see this is the map of this floor. So that is the room. Let's go into this class. Madam Jiang, good morning. This is our reporter from CCTV. Morning, everyone. We are live streaming. Do you want to say hi to CCTV viewers? You all know about the upcoming earthquake drills, and also the firefighters will give you some knowledge about escaping from earthquakes. Now let's welcome them. I will pretend to be one student as well, and I'm gonna sit in the back row and listen to your lecture. But sadly, if I sit in the back row, maybe the sound cannot be collected through the mic, so I will stand right next to you. So what do you want to start with? Do you want to comment on the environment, like the classroom? I will speak about the earthquake itself first. Our kids learned already that earthquake is a natural disaster. When it comes, there will be horizontal and vertical waves. The waves will shake the buildings. After the shaking, there will be some peaceful period. So there was a pause of the shaking. But after that, the shaking resumes. So we shall take full advantage of that peaceful period for self-rescue. If possible, we will have early preparation for escape. We must find the premium location. For example, if you are in the first floor, try to run outside as fast as possible. For example, the playground, those open spaces would be ideal. If you're standing inside the buildings, you need to find the places of relative safety. Please remember, when the earthquake hits, your lives are threatened, so there is no absolute safety. You could seek refuge under those solid tables or desks. Let's interact with the students. To you, what are the safe places in the classrooms, like the corners? If it is me, I will try to hide under a very strong object. You made a point. For example, the corners, that is a very important triangle area. We shall stay in that triangle area. We shall not stand next to the windows. You also talked about holding a book or your overcoat to cover your head, just in case there may be some objects falling down. You could also choose to take a towel to cover your mouth or eyes to immune yourself from the dust and the smoke. They may stifle you. Thank you for your answer. So, you both mentioned about the triangular area in earthquakes. That is a very important concept to bear in mind. Could you please show us what is the triangular area in this classroom? How shall we make a sound judgment when the disaster hits? How about let's put the question to the students? Like the corner? The triangular area will be steady. like the foot of the wall. And when anything falls down, the triangular area will have the strength to hold the object. The object, together with the foot of the wall, will form a triangular shape, and then people can hide in between the shape. I see smiles on Mr. Zhou. Which grade are you in? I'm in the second year of junior high, so he's already knowledgeable. I guess that's thanks to the rounds of drills. Now take your seat, please. I keep saying that the triangular area is a relative safe place. If you go to the washroom, what then? Actually, the washroom is even a safer place because the space is even smaller in the washroom, and more importantly, washroom is close to one thing: water. Very good.
如果地震了，咱们大家那个看见过那个08年那个汶川地震。
If earthquake strikes, for example, the Wenchuan earthquake, I remember one kid sustained himself for a long time. If there is no supply of water, people will get dehydrated. So if you were exactly in the washroom, you can last for a long time as long as you have the supply of water, even when the rescue people were not there. You must also be composed and analyze this problem. You should not shout, so that you can preserve your energy. Then you can calmly wait for the rescue people. If you hear any sound, you can try to knock the pipe or the stones. You may also choose to shoot light to catch attention. Instead, if you keep shouting, your energy is consumed too early. That's a very good point. Try to find a safe place, and at the same time, try to make full use of everything around you. Yes, put your wisdom at the best use. Try to think calmly with a clear head. If you panic, you lose the ability of thinking. The school trains our students of evacuation. That's very necessary. Such a monthly drill is to allow the students to acquire those knowledge and try to internalize those knowledge and put them into practices that will increase the likelihood of successful escaping. So could you give us some examples? For example, what types of objects would be useful for self-rescue? The triangular area is one thing, like the foot of the wall. I think the first thing is to evacuate the students. Now the number of students is too large. So when conditions allow, evacuate people, and then find rescue from like the strong tables or the foot of the wall. But I guess the table is too small. It's a very narrow space, and I recommend them to squat or kneel down. Because according to the international rules, squatting and kneeling down and holding tight onto something would be good skills. If you hold tight to something, your body would not move a lot when it shakes. You could stay put there. When the shaking is too strong, the children might be directly thrown out, like through the windows. So try to hold on tight to something. So, could you give us a show how it looks like to hold on to something or covering our head? Since the table is too small, I will show you how to protect yourself with some coverage. Like the kid said, try to take some thick books, or your overcoat, or your pillow when you're home, and use that object to protect your spine or your neck, your head. And also take a piece of towel to cover your eyes, your nose, and mouth. Sometimes you have to be flexible. Anything may happen in emergencies, so learn as much as possible and innovate in that scenario. You mentioned about covering your neck with the clothes. It's easy to understand. So, why should we cover the mouth? Because there will be heavy smoke or dust or stones. They may hit your eyes, so try to close your eyes and cover your mouth and nose to avoid anything entering into your respiratory system. Now I see. In addition, for self-protection, what other tips do you want to give us? Another reminder is about electricity and fire and gases. For example, you have gas tanks at home. So we shall stay close to water and stay away from electricity, gases, and fire. Give you an example. The high voltage circuit lines. They may fall down and hit you, so stay away from them. And also there are circuits. Even in the classrooms, you may get shot by the lighting and also the gases. The pipes of the gases may break down. And if you didn't turn off the valve, in a closed space, they may produce some explosive compounds. If you turn on the lighter, it may directly cause explosion. So in the residential areas, is there any control system to control like the electricity? If there is, that's better. When the drill happens, you will hear the alarm? Yes. Okay. I heard it begins at 20 to 10, so where shall we stand? We don't want to be an obstacle for your escape. And also we want to be part of your team. If you stand at the doorstep, the third floor is for drills. The students will firstly hide under the table to protect themselves, to guarantee that students in downstairs will be safer. So if you stand in the doors, you will block the way of our escape. We may hit you, and that reduces the time of escape. So it's like a corridor of escape. We must guarantee that it's all clear. All right, what is the procedure of the drill? Once the alarm clock sounds, students on the third floor will hold their book and put them above their head and hide at the corner of the tables and wait for the students in the first and second floor to evacuate first. And then we will quickly run to the playground. There are only 3 floors in this building. So you are now in the highest one. Have you stayed in the first floor? Yes. I used to study in the second floor. And the second floor is the first group to evacuate. What is the sound about?
这个是倒计时是吗？你说我们的这个演线开始了。好，
I think it's a countdown.
赶紧开始吧。
The countdown of the drill. Now let's find a place. Three, two, 1, 0.
那么现在我们是随着学生的演习，也是一起从3楼往下走，然后走到
Now we are following the steps of the students and walking down from the 3rd floor to the playground. That is the shelter area.
现在我们能看到在现
It's
场
an open space.
集结好了，应该都是1楼、2楼的这些学生，他们是最先出来。
The students are already gathering together. Those must be the students in the 1st and 2nd floor. They were the first ones to come out. And the classroom we just interviewed were one of the last. In the beginning, they choose to protect themselves by staying put, and after the evacuation of the other 2 floors, they run out. The students are already gathering together according to their classes. Now the teachers are giving some instructions.
一会儿老师可能会去报一个实到人数，就是每一个班。
I think they will give a count of the actual attendance. In one classroom, how many students are already out? Now the teachers are reporting the number of students evacuated.
We 应到501人，10到469人，应该都是这样。
501 should be here. Now the data were collected. This morning we had an emergency drill so that you will have the awareness of safety. The process was orderly. 7th graders and 9th graders finished the evacuation in 1 minute and 38 seconds. It took all of us 2 minutes and 59 seconds in total to complete the entire drill. With the arrangement and organization of the teachers according to the plans, the students quickly and safely gathered here in the playground. There should be 2,225 students here, and 2,210 students are actually here in the playground. You made a very good impression on us with your good performance. So, bravo for the students. I want to thank the teachers who have made themselves helpful in the drills. I hope you could keep raising your awareness to relieve the disasters. And I hope that everything goes well with our students. You could grow up and live happily in a safe environment. Now this is the end of the evacuation drill. Now this is the end of the drill.
那么现在呢，就是刚才我们整个的这样的一个教学的班级呢，是先回到教室，因为刚刚他们的这个课程还没有结束。
The students who were just now having classes will firstly go back to the rooms. The evacuation was quick. When we heard about the 20 seconds countdown, very quickly we come into evacuation procedure, and the students responded swiftly. They firstly covered their head with books and knelt down right next to their tables. If you don't have such knowledge, it's very difficult to follow. You must be the master of the class, Madam Jiang. Were you satisfied with the drill? The drill is a monthly thing. It's regular and it's commonplace. That's why the students are orderly. Are you satisfied with their practice? Just as usual, they were always like that. Now the students are trying to enter into the classroom. The firefighters will try to summarize the drill later on. What do you think of them? In general, very good results. But of course, there are weaknesses to improve. It's okay. You could give the information to the students later on. The room has been reset up because there will be another lecture. So let's invite our firefighters back to give some wrap-up and comments. We have been observing the drill. First of all, when the earthquake hits, try to stay calm. People tend to be panicked in fires or earthquakes. When you panic, you don't know what to do next. If it is the real case, like I said, try to have a clear head. And second, orderly evacuate. Do not push each other or shout. Save your energy. If you're in the first floor, quickly evacuate. If you are in the high floors, like the students here or the residents living in higher floors, there is no time for you to evacuate quickly if you live on the 20th floor. Try to find a safe place in the first 10 seconds when it's shaking heavily. Even there is a calm period after the shaking, over 10 seconds will not be enough for getting down. So when you panic, people may tend to jump from the high building. Speaking of jumping the building, at that moment, people may think that the floor is not that high. Yes, it's the instinct. Once we are in danger, for example, in the fires, it's very uncomfortable to be wrapped up by the heavy smoke. So the instinct will be try to get out as quickly as possible. So I think the shortcut will be to jump the high building, but that's actually unwise. It's very dangerous. Observing the students' evacuation drill, do you have any comments? In general, the evacuation was orderly and the speed was okay. Just now, the school leader gave a count of the time spent and the students' number, but we still need to learn about the loopholes for better improvement. As to the weaknesses and the loopholes, I discovered that some students are not giving enough attention to this drill. They're not taking it seriously. You have to look upon it as if it were real, so that when it really happens, you could have quick response. That's the purpose of the drill, to improve your capability of self-rescue and seek shelter in emergencies. Then you can study well and contribute to your nation. We have to learn as much knowledge as possible. All of those exercises are prepared to improve your capabilities. You did a good job just now. We shall applaud for the students. Yes, indeed. Thumbs up to you. I have to acknowledge my own mistake just now. You just mentioned about staying away from the glasses. In the drill, I still try to hide right next to the doors. Everyone has a table in the classrooms, and unintentionally, students try to hide next to the tables. But for me, I don't have a table, so I choose to stay next to the door. But actually, the door has some glasses and a doorknob. It's in the right corner of the classroom. If I had a second chance, I will choose to hide in the foot of the wall, the corner, not the door. I thought you were just now hiding in the triangular area, but actually I was directly squatting next to the door. I opened the door in the first instinct. I didn't notice that. The two doors shall be opened simultaneously for evacuation. One door will not be enough. It's like the flow of water. Different amount of water for one door open and two doors, both opened. The corridor has a fixed width, but when you open both doors, it's quicker for the evacuation. So you were just now blocking the door, and you were naively thinking that door will be protective of you.
对你来说有可能会挤到你。
是吗？
对。
那可是我如果要是当时的这种情况，
Even the triangular area behind the door will not be enough for you.
相对安全，只能说相对安全。
So that's not actually
那但是当时
a safe place. It's only a relatively safe place.
这个话筒好像有点问题。
因为咱们的承重墙嘛，承重墙是比这个梁嘛要相对安全一些。因为咱们教室也比较。
The walls will be safer than the columns.
我们刚刚声音好像有些问题啊，不知道现在恢复没有恢复？我们再试一下声音啊。
There are some signal problems. Is it better?
我们现在声音有恢复吗？
Is the sound okay?
好，那我们现在用手机收一下声啊，各位网友们，声对收声好像有一些问题。
Now let's change to the cell phone to collect the voice. Let's continue the conversation. I'm actually trying to trace back my problems. I did it wrong. I blocked the way of evacuation, and we were just now discussing, was it safer to seek shelter in that corner? To you, where do you recommend? Try to find a heavy column or a triangular area or strong tables. Okay.
相对来说比较安全。
That corner you mentioned, it's a relatively safe place.
三角形的稳定性啊，包括说很多相对。
The bearing wall.
行，那我们
It's after all a triangular area.
在真的是灾难来临的时候，没有绝对的。
Now I get it.
都不希望灾难来临，但是现在
So when the disaster breaks out, there is no absolute safety.
还有一些演练，其实就是为了在
And we learned something about
更多的胜算去保护。
evacuation and escaping so that in actual scenarios we have the utmost means to protect ourselves. Thank you for your introduction. Now I guess it's the second part of this lecture.
关于急救
Thank
的
you.
知识，我觉得老师现在身上穿的这个衣服，就让我们一下
The
子
second part
是急救的
is about first aid knowledge. Based on the jacket you're wearing, you must be the lecturer and the trainer. Yes, you're wearing a red cross. In the disasters, such a red cross is a symbol of relief for the affected people. So please tell us, what were the actual practices you had? I was mainly the trainer. For me, I'm already 50 years old, so I cannot go to the front line. So I'm mainly training the students. In China, the students had poor awareness of first aid. So to echo the call of the national government, we are here to spread the knowledge of first aid. So I see such a model. In the interest of time, I can only go along step by step. Like the heart attack, the stroke. So I will try to lecture the students about the cardiopulmonary resuscitation and also how to protect our head from the falling objects. And also, when you were hit on the head, how to save yourself. And in the interest of time, I'm gonna only teach you those 2 tips today, maybe more later. Okay, maybe we can receive questions from the viewers later on. So now, first of all, CPR. Okay, now the training of cardiopulmonary resuscitation. You all heard about the star dying from the heart attack. He had a sudden cardiac attack. Arrest. There was no breathing, no heartbeat, so you had a heart arrest. And it's different from the sudden death caused by the heart problem. So today, such a knowledge about how to save yourself in case of the heart arrest is very important. I will show you several steps. What should be the first one? First of all, try to run to that person. You should press the heart. No, try to wake him. If he cannot be awakened, then press him. And if the pressing doesn't work, that is the step for artificial respiration. Very good. So the first step, evaluate the environment, whether that person is safe. For example, in the highways, if you directly rescue him, what about the cars running behind you? Or what about the falling objects? So the first step is to look around the environment and do not touch him already, to see if that person is lying in a dangerous place. For example, he's directly under the circuit lines, and when he was choked from the gas, you should first of all check the environment. For example, you could try to pull up the valve of the electricity. If you were on the highway, you should make some preparation for the other cars coming. Second, self-protection. Like infections through blood, breathing, or fluid. So try to protect yourself from such infection. Wear gloves. If no, wear plastic bags will work to avoid the direct contact and infection. And then go to the person, the patient. Gently touch him. What do I mean? Pat on the shoulders, gently. Only the shoulders. And try to wake him. If no response, then look at the vital signs by listening, seeing, and observing. Listening. Strain to hear the breathing. Seeing to see if there is an up and down of his chest. And then observing the entire situation of that person. If there is no vital life sign of that person. Try to call someone. For example, ask the passersby to call 120.
如果没有告诉我，赶紧。
And also name that person to call.
第二个话呢，就告诉
Not just abstractly say the words calling 120.
咱们那个现在
Second, take AED.
啊，就大家那个看那个急救电影。
AED is installed in the public places now. If you have watched the movies,
那么这工作做完
you
以
will
后
see the AED used on the chest of the
他
patient
进去干什么？
to shock him. After that,
按压了。
like the student said,
按压什么位置？
try to press him on the chest.
骨头连线的终点。
The location of your pressing is in the
如
middle
果这个点倒那以后不好看，
of the two bones, two chest bones.
用手的一个中指，知道哪个是中指吗？一只手的中指啊，顺着你的软骨摸，
Use the middle finger
摸到了中间这个位置，有个很高的一个骨头，是吧？
and touch upon the middle
中指摸到了位置以后，食
that is one bone
另一只手贴住了食指，
and put your forefinger right next to your middle finger and put your other hand on top of the two fingers for pressing.
怎么按压？首先看你的手啊，
同学，你找到这个点了吗？按照刚才这个方法。
Sorry to interrupt. Have you found that point of pressing already?
摸到剑突的最高点，食指贴住了中指，另一只手
Try to touch the highest bone point.
你摸一下，
The two fingers stick together and the other hand on top of the two fingers to press.
对，弧的两个弧的位置啊。
So
那么一会儿
it's one part of the ribs, in between two
找
ribs.
到吧这个位置，可以哈。
然后看你的手，
So have you found
你的
the
手
bone?
这个横纹
Yes.
半横纹，对吧？半横纹，你用两个手指搁在半横纹上，
And look at your hand.
位置就是你按压手的位置。
Put your two
然
fingers
后必须用掌根按压
over the handprint
全上
and
按压以后
press.
肋骨折了啊，用掌根。
Do not use your own palm for
这么
pressing.
一起做啊。
Only
两个手
use
掌根重叠
the root of your hand for pressing.
根据你的习惯啊，两个手掌根
The two hands must overlap,
手屈抠紧
and from the force of habit, whichever hand you use on top is okay. But the top hand will have to
为什么好多电视剧那个演员一做的
button up
100%
the lower one.
一屈了以后，这个掌根就回来了啊，就容易造
And also, try to straighten your
这
arm.
个始终是直
Do
的
not bend your arm.
一样，始终是直的啊。那么
Put your two
夹
arms
紧以后
straightened
看我的位置啊，我要
like
跪在
two poles, and then look at me. I kneel next to that
如果我
patient.
做的
Why? If I squat like this, I'm not steady. So when I kneel down,
中间
I am steady.
最稳定啊，这样怎么做动作啊？那么
And
骨头连线放在我两个
you will not be shaking from the movements.
等腰三角形最好的啊。那么看我做下去，
And also, his chest is in between my two legs.
按的时候
Now, I will show you how to do this.
垂直向下，学过垂直
And
吗？
when you do press,
向下，所以我这样摁叫垂直向下嘛。
your force
对，这样
must be passed down vertically,
那么摁的时候要求摁多少呢？
like this.
5到6厘，
How many times shall I press?
频率
How further shall I press? I shall press 5 to 6 centimeters
要求那么准确。
and 100 to 120 times
脑缺氧
per minute. That's the frequency. For your information, we may faint once our brain is deprived of oxygen.
不可逆变的死亡。
If it's 4 minutes, then our brain cells will die.
脑细胞是没有修复功能的，死了就是死了，没有逆变。
Your cells
4分钟就开始
can recover if you hurt yourself with a knife and it bleeds, but not the brain
这
cells.
个人为什么？
In 4 minutes' time, the brain cells will all die.
你把希望都寄托给120，都寄托给医生。
When people are not breathing,
4分钟他到了现场，
you cannot put your
到不了
hopes all
所以
on
我们
the
的任务
doctors because they may not make it in 4 minutes.
第一个任务通过你
For us, we must start the CPR.
如果你摁的时候
Such pressing
没有使它恢复，
may be a good way to resume the heartbeat. If the vital signs are not resumed with the pressing, you are still doing a very good job because with the pressing, the blood is transmitted to the brain. Once the oxygen is sent to the brain, you are actually saving time for the doctors.
保证了脑细胞没有死亡。
You play a big role here.
那么为了
You protect the brain cells from dying.
人的血压要达到60到80毫米血压，那么怎么才能达到
People's
60到
blood
80
pressure
只能向下摁
will have to be around 60 to 80.
最好理想的是100到120
So
明白了吗？大家现在
100 to 124 frequency of pressing per minute will be paramount to maintain that blood pressure level. Any
按照
question?
咱的习惯就是平时养这个习惯。
What about the 5 to 6 centimeters further?
如果
Why?
方便的话，咱们现在有
In your exercises, you must get used to that length. You bring a lot of gadgets.
机器，由于现在呢使用率很高，
I have a machine here.
都坏了都坏。但是这个，比如说这会儿
This machine can help you to control perfectly the pressing distance. When the red signal is on, it means you're pressing too heavy. It's bigger than 6 centimeters. It's best to have the green light on in the middle. If the yellow light is on, it means you're not pressing enough.
吹气的一个表现。当你吹气多的时候，
For those signals,
吹气正好的时候是内能量，吹气不够的时候，
it's about breathing.
所以咱们出气呢。
When you're breathing okay, it's green
当
light.
你
If
动作达到一定数量
your artificial breathing is not enough, it's yellow light on.
大家还有什么问题？
So when you get really familiar with that procedure, you can abandon the gadget. Another question.
每
Shall we stop and pause a little bit between every minute?
第一频率怎么控制？先说频
The
率。
pressing is
咱
continuous.
正常习惯一般数4个数，
How to control the frequency?
1、2、3、4，所以我们为了
If you
达到
count 4,
这个
it takes 1 second usually. So,
我们含2个数
to guarantee accuracy of the frequency, try to count 2 like 01, 02, 03, 04. You will know about 1 second.
你去换我，
And there should be no pause.
时间我们要求不能超过5秒。
For example, if we change people for the pressing, in between, it must take no more than 5 seconds if you shift people for the pressing.
对他生命判断的时候，
Time matters
也是要求
because of the 4 minutes golden time.
看三观察嘛，听听有没有喘气的，然后看一看胸口有没有起伏的。
You listen to the breathing, you look at the chest up and down.
你不要跟相面似的，像半小时有。
You must complete the 2 steps within 6 seconds. You cannot keep looking at him for half an hour, it's too late. So 6 seconds for observing.
感根重叠，
Now I will show you how to press.
下边手的手指
Overlap your palms.
两臂夹紧，身
The
体
fingers of the lower hand should point up
分的上分的
and put your gravity forward
夹进去的，而不是
and press vertically.
看我的侧面
Try
啊
to force your body weight on him, not just use the force of the arms. 01, 02, 03, 04, and you keep counting.
所以大家看我做的时候，心里
30.
用爆发力。什么叫爆发力？
So
这叫爆发力，对吧？不能
I
是
keep
爆发力
this continuous with no explosion. By that I mean I'm not pressing too heavy on him,
什么叫太阳？
and it's an even strength. Also,
第三个，
do not lift up your hand when you're pressing.
完全回弹。什么叫完全回弹？5厘米
Three.
5厘米下，回来5厘米，再摁5厘米。你不能说
You must see a full rebound of the chest. For example, when your hand is up, the 5 or 6 centimeters of the chest must completely rebound to the initial level. and then you keep pressing again. If the chest comes back to the original place, then you can keep pressing for the second time. I just pressed 30 times. What's next? Yes, breathing. A question to you. What do we inhale? Oxygen. What do we exhale? It's CO2. Sorry. You're breathing in the air. You're not just breathing in the oxygen. What do we breathe out? All CO2? Not actually. We are giving out gases. So in the air, oxygen takes up 21% of the total. And when we breathe out, oxygen takes up 16% and CO2 was 4%. So for breathing in and out, I inhale 21% of oxygen and get out 16% of oxygen. So I take in 5% in total. So when I inhale 16% of oxygen and I give all that to the patient, that person only takes in 5% of oxygen. It's like you only need 5 RMB yuan and I give you 16 RMB yuan. We are not giving out CO2. You're giving out gases containing oxygen. So that patient needs only 5% of oxygen. Very good dispelling of misunderstanding. Then how shall I go with it? When one loses vital signs, all the muscles are relaxed. The tongue will fall back, even fall to your throat. That will block the air in. So you have to lift his tongue, but not with your hand. According to anatomy, when people are falling back, the muscle can lift your tongue. For adults, when he's lying down, the tongue will be up. For the babies, when he's lying 30 degrees from the floor, the tongue will be up. But for adults, it's 90 degrees. So, move his head to lift the tongue. When our nose is straight up to the air, then our respiratory system is open. What if the patient is holding something in the mouth? For example, the fake teeth. So you have to clear the throat first. Open his mouth to see if there is anything in the mouth. You can touch the faces and open the mouth to see if there is anything in. If there is, put your 2 hands on both ends of the faces and protect the neck, and then wring his head for 45 degrees. And your thumb press on his tongue to open the mouth. Use the forefinger of the other hand to lift the tongue up. And then lift the head and the nose up. Then the respiratory system is open. Next, self-protection. You may fear about infectious disease, so you will use this. It's a one-time thing. It's actually a disposable plastic bag. Both sides will be usable.
它放到病人的口腔上，
You could breathe through this.
通过它向
Put it on his mouth
到一
and
定的减少
breathe through the membrane.
我
To some degree, it reduced the possibility of infection.
如果没有它，
In daily lives, if we don't have such a membrane, what next? You could use your handkerchief.
要透气，它通过吹气嘛。
What about the napkins? Napkins cannot let the air in.
突然没病人，这个环节可以
If you judge that person is infectious, you can skip the breathing. You directly open the respiratory system and then keep pressing. That can protect yourselves.
那么，如果这个病人口腔损伤了，我们可以把口腔封闭，出鼻子行吗？可以，对吧？那么
If the mouth is already hurt, we can also breathe through the nose.
肺活量很好，3000都给它吹进去。
The second question is the air as much as possible?
这个吹气太多，这个气就不到肺里，跑哪去了？
If you give too much air,
跑哪去了？跑胃
the air will not go to the pulmonary system.
所以吹的这个
Instead, it goes to the
达到
stomach.
一定压力以后，呜，东西就出来了。啊，所以吹气不能多，多少呢？500到600。
So do not breathe too much air. How much? 500 to 600 ml. And to the utmost, 700 ml.
那么如果我
How to control the
怎么
amount?
办呢？你们
Like
现在正常的
The bottle of the beverage. 1 bottle of air is okay.
呼气大约500那么你为什么肺活量
That's how much you need for breathing. You breathe in and out. It's about 500 to 600 ml.
过多，容易引起肺胀气？
But sometimes when we do the physical check, you may realize that you have a very big pulmonary capacity, larger than 600. That's because you're using strength to inhale.
你们吹气球怎么吹啊？不都这样吹吗？
You breathe out for 1 second and you pause for 2 seconds
不能过快。好了，看我做一下示范。打开气
and
道
keep it steady
看我左手
and
动作
even. Do not make it too quick. Let me show you how.
左胳膊肘放在地上，成一个支点。
Look at my left hand.
左掌根贴住了发际，吹气的时候，左手向内旋，
You put your elbow on the floor
腔把它封闭。这是左手动作，
and your left hand will roll down gradually
吹放
to hold his nose.
再看我右手动作，右手食指跟
Breathe
摁住了下
and
颌，
let go, breathe and let go. And now look at my right hand.
好，摁在侧面，
The two
胳
fingers
膊看吧是贴在身体内侧的。
press here
身体内侧呢，我吹的时候，用眼的余光，
and my elbow is tight to myself.
所以吹气的时候，
Why? Because when I'm breathing, I could
你不能说
use my vision, use my eyesight to see the up and downs
一点不动，
of the chest.
明白吗？用眼的余光看它。好了，做一下。
If the chest remains unmoved, that means the air is not in.
两口气。
So I will keep my eyes on the chest, and the elbows will make way for it. Okay, 2 breathing, and I keep pressing and counting.
18、19、20、21、22、23、24、25、26、27、29、30。好了，就这样反复做。一般病人我们要求抢救办30分钟，30分钟。但是对于
And you repeat that.
一氧化碳中毒的，
Usually we require 30 minutes of such rescue. For drowning people, or
在情
CO
况中，如果特别
toxicity and electricity shock, those 3 types will require 45 minutes of rescue.
啊，微循环有了，生命的压实。
If the patient
时间无限延长，直
has
到
a
医护人员到来。
better condition from a pale face, that means your rescue is efficient. You can keep saving him like that until the ambulance came.
咱们请3个
Any more question? No? Okay. I take 2 other models with me, and let's invite 3 students for practices.
你是在数这个
对，默念。但是如果2个人进行配合的话
When you are really saving the patients, do we have to count the numbers and make it loud? Not necessarily.
准备好吹气了。
When you count to 25
3个同学上来，有4号份儿有的吗？
and you make it loud, you're actually making the other person waiting for the shift get ready. Any volunteers? Okay, stand next to the model.
第一个动作呢是
Now follow my instructions.
这个要求呢，2臂侧倾，环顾四周，大声说。
First, examine the environment.
然后第二地方，2个手放在这儿，这么
Hold horizontal your both arms.
明白吗？好了，这来了啊，我从开始可以做这个啊。
Wear your gloves.
开始。好的，对在这电视上。
Now begin.
对，双手拍肩，轻拍重换，大声喊：“喂，同志怎么样？”
Now kneel down on the cushion.
喊，看着他，哎，怎么样？
Pat the shoulders and wake him.
关听一听他有没有喘气的声音，看看他胸廓有没有起伏，不要摸他，对，只听一听，不要摁。对，
Now listen
身体一个观察。
and observe.
好的，下边开始呼叫，来人呐。
Just listen to the breathing, no touching,
说完以后，我算一下。
and observing.
这有晕倒了。
Call someone.
打120，打字告诉我，那是哪里？好，开始。
You can say call 120, and you can tell the other person to fetch AED.
打左面，请打开。对，打开它没事啊。2手掌根冲底，做好这个按压动作，放在按压点上。先看一下按压点吗？对，2手掌根冲底。
Now overlap your hands and find the pressing point.
身体前倾，我击下掌，你再压一下啊，对。
And make yourself forward. When I pat once, you press once, and you keep doing that.
16、17、18、19、20、21、22、23、24、25、26、27、28、29、30，好，不错啊。下边清理口腔衣部，先看看口上有没有东西。
Very good. Next, clear the throat.
45度。
Open the mouth to see if there is anything inside. And roll his head while protecting the neck. Use your thumb to press the tongue and use the other forefinger to take the tongue out.
下边开始打开气道，左手掌根贴住了话题，右手试着拇指摁下颌。
Then
朝天，气道打开。
open the respiratory system by making his nose directly shooting up.
好了，准备口膜，把这个口膜拿出来。没有反右边。
Prepare the membrane. Both sides work.
然后开始，右手各位手放在地上，屁股朝天了吗？看一看，屁股朝天了没有？
Put your left elbow on the ground.
这样，
Check if the nose is up in the air.
然后开始，左手举，拇指根一直摁住了鼻子，然后抱好，这里吹气，吹。
Now hold his nose with your left hand and now begin
开，
breathing.
从鼻子上拿开，停顿，这是2秒钟应该啊。好，第2口吹气，吹。
And your left hand must release when you complete the first breathing and the second breathing.
开始，01、02、03，不要断。
Prepare to press. Breathing again. 2 breathing. 1, 2, pressing.
30，好，吹气，鼻孔朝天，必须手顶住了，好，放。
Now breathing again. The nose must be up. 2. Now take the membrane away. Help him to wear the clothes. Now you can stand up
完整的心肺复苏的这样的一个练习。
and take your seats. So that's a complete procedure of CPR. I know it's our first time. Usually we will go around 5 times that procedures. 2 minutes for 5 times.
我有一个问题，像刚才我们说到，就是
So any more question about CPR?
这样的一个幅度，对吧？
I actually got one.
如果我们没有这样的一个练习机，我们怎么从其他的方式去判断？
You talked about 5 to 6 minutes of pressing distance. If we don't have a gadget to measure the distance, how?
必须靠平时经验的积累。你说怎么能卡到5厘米、6厘米？只能是拿那个仪器做。那么平时
So we have to have a lot of practices
心肺复苏
to make it
必
accurate.
须在模拟人上练，不允许
You have to do a lot of such
好多夏令营
exercises.
好多那个培训班
And CPR must be practiced on models. Do not practice on real
咱们回
persons.
家也不要做这个错误动作。
In many training courses, if they don't have models, they directly use students. We don't allow it
是5、6厘米这样的一个力度的这个，
because you may get hurt.
你感受了一下
就，是平力动力定型，形成动力定型以后，
So we must get familiar with the 5 to 6 centimeters.
对，下边我们马上进入爆炸的。
Your muscle will get used to it. Okay, that's all for CPR. I heard you will also teach them how to bundle the head. Count 1, 2, okay? And we will divide you into groups.
数2的给一个，数2的站起来，同学，凡是数2的站起来。
这个老师
Stand up if you're number 2.
其实这不是道具，这是真的一个救护时急救时的
And the trainer is sending out the gadgets for first aid.
绷带。
都有了吗？
这个绷带的好处是它有弹性，
It's the bundle, the medical bundle.
手指啊或者是胳膊呀勒到不过血的这种
数1同学，你把你的那个凳子和人向前走一步，数1的，凳子和人走一步，数2的站在他的身后。
Take 1 step if you are number 1, and if you're number 2, you sit behind number
老
1.
师今天教了大家这个头部的一个包扎护理，是因为在地震的时候，我们最常遇到的这样的一个
The bandages around the head is very useful in earthquakes.
经常会有这种高空坠落的
Our heads may easily get hurt.
到啊，当然头部也是最脆弱的一个部位之一。
啊，首先呢，头部
So the head is the most vulnerable part of our body.
对于让他的头部扎伤。那么当头部受伤以后，我们要用救变器材对它进行包扎，有什么呢都可以。那么今天呢，我们
And
大家
we
讲
must use the materials to
的帽子
bind the head.
三角帽子
Today,
包扎是急救
We will teach you
啊，只要有头部的地方
to use the elastic bandages.
都可以用它。那么首
If there
先
is any injury or bleeding on the head, you can use the bandage. First of all,
作为安全不安全，做好个人
examine the
完事以
environment.
后，看这个敷料
Have self-protection.
知道
Then
啊，这是敷料。
Take this.
受伤的
You
位置
don't have
用
this.
手摁住了，受伤的位置摁住了，通过摁压。
And press it against the bleeding
第
area
二个呢，我的另一只手，干
to
什么
stop the bleeding.
用指压止血法止血。怎么叫指压止血法呢？通过手指压力把血管
And then
使血流 不过去了，达到止血作用。
Press your fingers to stop the
如果
bleeding.
这边出血，跟我一起做一下示范。
Where should you press?
你的耳朵眼儿，
Follow me.
了吗？向前一点，
Find your ear,
向前一
the
点
hole in your
这个
ear.
地方有个凹陷的位
And
置，有一个凹陷的位置，
there is one area here, and press it.
耳眼儿向前1.5
You will feel the pulse.
跳不跳？有不
It's
跳的
about
赶紧告诉我
1.5
有
centimeters
不跳的话，
in front of the hole of
不跳
your
的
ear,
错了哈。
and you could feel
然
the
后
pulse.
对，你摁的时候，你食指是没有力量的，用拇指摁住了它的这个位置，摁住了
Use
啊
your
达到这个
thumb
止血作用
to
需要一
press
点时间。
that
那么
point
这时候
that
血
will
止住
stop
了以
the
后
bleeding.
让病人自己摁着，让病人自己摁，你去找器材。那么找什么器材呢？
And then the patient can press that point by himself while you are looking for other gadgets.
三角巾的这个小头一蹬就开啊，打开，打开，
You open this bandage.
都打开，把三角巾拿好。一蹬你手就开了啊，拿好了吗？这个底角
It will open naturally when you shake it.
快一点儿，那个稍微慢，那个哎，你看都打开，你不要叠上，快一点儿，有舌的那个从下。看有
Open
舌
it
的从
completely.
下
Be quick.
对，好了啊，下边把底边折2到3公分，就是那么2个手指宽度。
And fold it.
第一个边儿，看到吗？
Fold the arms.
都无所谓，要第一个边儿。
Fold for like 2 centimeters wide.
知道2到3公分是多宽吧，同学们？2到3公分。
2 to 3 centimeters on the arms
好的，
will be folded.
拿到中间这个位置。
It's the width of 2 fingers.
看我手动作，2个手不要太远，2
And look at my hands.
个手不要太远。
Put the 2 hands
病的脑门儿
not too far from each other.
好了吗？
Between the 2 hands is about the distance of your head.
都放这儿了啊！
Now watch me.
注意前面这个边儿，提的眼眉。
It's bleeding over there.
没了吗？先看我做，一会儿来做。
And the arms will stay to the eyebrows.
向下压，
And now see my thumbs.
压这个边儿，压。
They press the arms of the cloth.
在它的
After that,
下面这个骨头枕骨下，2个手交换。
you make a knot
2手交换，交换完了以后，
by changing the 2 sides.
在它的肩
And
侧的这边
then
受伤吧，在这面的眉弓上打
Since he's getting hurt on the right side of the
打
head,
正中间，
so you will make the knot
在眼眉的最高点那个位
in
置。
the place of the left elbow, in the highest point of the elbow.
回来的时候注意一定要压着边儿回来啊！打结儿以后，把这个绳头掖进去。
After making the knot on the eyebrow,
掖完了以后，大家看，这个地方没有包紧，对吧？这个地方很松，没有牢牢地贴在头上，怎么办？
you see that
至少摁
the
住
bleeding point is not totally tightly
对吧？你们看，
wrapped.
我第一
So next, you use the rest of the cloth,
对吧？
you push it.
牢牢地包在那上。
Now the cloth is tightly attached to the head.
和头完全有个压力了，把这个啊，然后把这个角
The head will feel the pressure from the cloth now.
掖到这
Then
个左折点里。
For that corner, you wrap it and put it inside.
老师，我想有一个问题，为什么我要把它放到眉骨？
I have a question.
因为受伤部位，
Why are we making the knot on the eyebrows? Of course, you cannot make the knot on the bleeding
防止这个
point,
结儿磕在，
出血的这一步，
对，
so that point is the safest.
并且这个如果放在正中间，
If your right side of the head is bleeding, you knot on the left side. And if you make the knot in the middle, it's not beautiful.
一个标准就是远离出血的这一侧去打结。
So the principle is to stay away from the bleeding side. In the US, they don't have such requirement of where you knot. But for us, we hope to knot as far as possible from the bleeding area. And also, when I make the knot, all the movements are away from the bleeding point, meaning the top of the head. Now you practice.
两个手轻轻的，注意在上面交叉，交叉是把那个脚压在下边，不要在这脚把脚搁上面来。不要系扣，上里系扣了，两手交换的是。哎，同学们，再看我做下示范，别动，别动，看我再做下示范。
Not knotting yet. Look at me again.
放到这个眼眉的高度以后，两个手的动作看，这样压。
Watch my hands. The two corners switch to the other side, and then you knot in front. You make the knot on the eyebrow. You seem very familiar with the movement. Could you show me again?
其实这部分老师我有一个问题，我们卷这个边儿的时候有没有正反？
没有正反。
When we are rolling the arms, both sides will work, right? Yes. It's easier for the steps after that.
然后在你如果在没有感觉很紧的这个地方，这样拽是真的会痛。
他这样好像就是我刚才看老师那，就是这样会往后。
啊。
I follow the instructions of the teacher. And if you pull this, then the cloth will be tighter against your head. What do you think of them? It's after all their first time. For example, this one.
牢固性挺好，但是有个问题，这是眼眉吗？
It's
打在眉弓上。
tight, but that place is wrong. It's not the eyebrow.
啊，就是你系的扣稍微再紧一点，你看太松，你松了以后，你这样一蹬就跑了。
So the knot can be tighter. It's too loose, and when you pull the corner behind the head, the cloth may fall down. Pay attention to the details.
看你这个为什么有问题？
Come out, please.
压边儿，你边儿没压。
What's your
压
problem?
一点，系紧一点。
The knot must be directly on top of the edges, the
接
rims,
上了，你怎么样？
and then
都整理完了。
you pull the corner behind.
成绩不能错啊。
看来还是有一些关
有
键的
技巧，
点。
有技巧。
那这一个
你看那个效果就开始。
So there are a lot of details. That kid is doing good.
都立起来了，证明它力度很大，包的压的很大啊，这还是不错的。第一次包能包到这种水平就不错了。
It's very tight,
觉得这种包扎的方法最
and it's perfect for the first time.
最关键点就是嘛呢？这个人。
What is the most important
那么
pointer?
为什么其实眼眉后边这整骨呢？是包这个。
The head is like a ball,
这样就那个支钉里就锁住了。
so
还是同时
we
把它
wrap
再
like
高一点，
3/5 of the
把
head,
包了球的2/3，
and it's steady.
一拿就下来，一拿就下来了，造成一个小。
If you only wrap like 1/3 of the head, it's easy to fall down, like a cap. That's why I ask the students to put the edges of the cloth right on top of the eyebrows.
但是有一个
This one is good,
错误的典型，你看那个边儿在哪儿？
but there's one thing about
压
it.
边儿压边儿。
Where is your rim?
那么你看你那个也是，你过来一下，这是
and the rim must be 2 to 3 centimeters.
明白吗？
It's too wide.
这个典型带一个小问题，知道看这个有什么问题吗？
There is one problem with this one.
架抓过来，你没有连，直接架带过来，所以造成你这纹路。
You didn't pull the cloth.
我最后强调的马上，好的，我最后强调一点啊，同学们啊，好，把它都拿起来，都拿起来，
Finally, I want to stress some points.
快，
Take
都拿
them
起来。
away.
好了，凡是拿得最快的同学，证明你的爆炸是最错的。为什么？为什么？
If it's very easy for you to take it down, it means you did it wrong because it's
现在
not
有几个
tight.
是解开掉才拿起来的？有没有？几乎是有一个啊。
How many of you have to
我说拿起来以后是把它解开拿起来，
debundle
一
it
把就抓起来
in order to take it out?
松，没有搭到。
That means you did it right.
明白吗？
Otherwise, it means it's very loose for you to take it
这
down.
个要求前面
So, when you do it again later on, I have several requirements. First of all, it must be close to the eyebrow, and the end of the cloth must be below your bone behind the head. And the knot must be made to the other side of the eyebrow. And also, the rim, the edge, must be 2 to 3 centimeters. Don't make it too big or small.
第一不能太高，
And the knot must be right
眼包上了，
over the rim.
啊，明白吗？
You cannot cover the eyes.
做法的一个重点。那这个医用
So that's about the bandage.
这个绷带啊，有
That's about the cloth. What about this elastic bandage? It's
咱们
elastic.
用的是一般的急救员呢，用的是弹力绷带，它有什么好处呢？除了正常绷带的使用，比如说
Elastic bandage has advantages.
那么还有一个，它可以起到保护作用。
It can stop the bleeding.
脚崴了，
It is also protective.
现在他不小心上去一个一下楼，
If you
崴了，
trip
上来先干什么？
and your foot is hurt,
立即休息，不要动了，对不
其实
对？
脚崴这也
不
是
能还
Rest
时候经常能遇到的一
对吧
个意外情
对
况。
吧？第二个
you
呢
cannot keep running.
为什么？
Second,
最简单了，热胀冷缩。
put
如果你
some
马上按
cold towel on top of the
热敷的话，
hurt area.
加快，是不是马上肿起来了？所以我们扭上以后，第一个要冷敷，通过冷
If
敷达到两个作用。第一个作用
It's hot towel, then it will explode. So
血就不上外淤了，不上外脓了。
the coldness
第二个呢，止痛止痛，
will not make your
皮肤
ankle
温度的降低而痛
expand.
消失。为什么你手冻木了以后拉口都？
And also it kills the pain.
所以我们扭上以后，
When your hand is freezing, even if a knife swipes your hand, you will not feel a thing. You can use ice cubes.
就手搁在脚正上，那怎么用这个冰块呢？那么你想，你家冰块肯定见了见角见折啊。如果是圆的话，你
How
可
to
能都贴在
use the ice cubes? Ice cubes may not be round in shape, so they will not fit to your skin.
把冰块搁在塑料袋
You use a
里
towel,
边搁上去。
and you can put the ice cubes in a plastic
搁在
bag,
你的皮肤上
and you can pour some cold water into the bag,
这样冷。
and then you put the bag
如果这是吧，冰块
on top of your skin. That's best.
搁在冰局里，
Otherwise, you take only one piece of ice cube to put it on the point. It doesn't work.
固定。所以
The fourth step is to use the elastic bandage for fixture. So bandage is not just for wrap up. It can fix your pain point. Your elbow, your ankle may get hurt when you're playing football. You sprain. Then you take the bandage to protect your ankle.
其实，在我们逃生的时候，经常容易着急，就扭到脚腕。
对，
When we're escaping and we are usually in a hurry, so it's easy to hurt our
比如说
ankle.
的问题，
There will be accidents in escaping.
还有补
like spraining, bleeding,
那么这个里边呢就好多
fracture,
那么由于它那块时间关系，咱们不能说讲的那么太细了，要专门拿出一个
or even treading upon others.
自救的一个
But in the interest of time, I cannot go through them one by one. Such medical bandage is commonly used in first aid packages. Yes, it's a necessary item in the package. If you travel, I recommend you to take one elastic bandage. It has multiple functionalities. It is protective of your ankle.
只能说冰开一角。
So we've taught 2 knowledge points about first aid, but still, they are just the tip of the iceberg. If you have the interest, you could surf on the internet, like the official website of the Red Cross. Do not just read papers from your WeChat or Cineblog. You go to the official website for more knowledge. For example, drowning. How to save the drowned person. When you take it out, we don't recommend you to get the water out in the first place. We shall firstly open the mouth to clear the throat and also open the respiratory system to breathe in. If you directly press out the water, it doesn't work. Just now, the first aid had the first step of pressing, but not for drowning. For drowning, we shall breathe first and then press. Also, in the fires, you may be burned. So what to do to deal with it? Soap? Toothpaste? Can we use them? When you cook and you burn yourself, some people just use the sauce. It's like a barbecue, right? Do not rub anything instantly. The first step when you burn, you should put your arm under the tapping water. Because it hurt, you wash your arm for 15 to 20 minutes, and then you take off your clothes. After washing your whole arm, you could use a scissor to break open the clothes because there may be glasses on your arms. And then you wash your arm for another 15 to 20 minutes. And then you could go to the doctor. If you're severely burned, go to the doctor. You must use clean clothing to cover the harmed arm to avoid any infections. If you're burned, to have the blisters. That's the place of bacteria. It's easy to get infected. So if you have blisters, do not deal with it by yourself. Go to the doctor to handle the blister. Okay? All the first aid knowledge we learned are a preparation for future practices. In real lives, if we have the need of first aid, try to find a professional and seek help from them. Because you may not be 100% sure of controlling the situation. So do not exacerbate. And thank you for your lecture today. Our live streaming will actually continue. I hear our school has an earthquake team.
警的系统，其实刚才我们在直播的这个内容中也要
We have an early warning system.
在我们整个的一个预警的逃生演练的这个环节中，它是最开始的一个环节。
对对，所以正常
In the drill, the early warning system is the first step. It's in the first floor, so we will go there.
当时听到的一个报警是从20多秒开始倒数的，也就是说我们在开始的这个环节中听到
Just now we had a 20 seconds countdown.
播报，然后同学们当时还说这个应该就是逃生的这样的一个演练的一个
And the students told me that that's the early warning.
系统在我们是在学校内部的，它
这也
是
是当时
So the early warning system is installed on campus
作为
for the earthquakes.
防震检测示范系统
Yes.
咱们也是地震方
Our school was a demo school
特别的那个
in Tianjin City. So
这也是全国
the government especially installed the system for us.
这也是全国最开始
You were one of the first schools to install the early warning system.
来讲，天津是第一家，是这样的。
这个就是我们的
Tianjin was the first
感觉好像比我们想象中的要小很多。
in North China to install the early warning system. That's it. It's the receiver.
哦，那有什么样
There
的
are
环节呢？
other gadgets of the system.
是这样的。
So how does it work?
咱们现在讲的叫做地震预警，并不是地震预报。地震预警呢，就是利用电
It's
波
seismic early warning.
在那个
It's not prediction.
提前对用户提供几秒。
We have the electric wave,
地震预报呢，比如说就是
so
咱们也知道，比如说我就把明天拿来，
it gives out the signal for early warning.
其实对现在
But it's not a forecast
所
system,
谓的预报者呢，
so we cannot give the information ahead of the earthquake. Yes, I learned that even though the forecast is correct, it's a coincidence. But for early warning, it's a very mature system. After Wenchuan earthquake, we have a 1,000 talent program. One of them is called Wang Tun, and he established a research institute to study the early warning system for the earthquakes. How can we send the signal to every receiver?
联合，然后再建设了就延伸
They coordinate with many local seismic bureaus,
220万平方公里。
and now the system covers 31 provinces, covering 2.2 million square kilometers,
这样
and 90% of the population.
预警网，首先我们
大区越大，它的这个
So that network is the early warning network.
这个地震预警网越大，它能
The coverage is large.
范围就越大，然后只有在这个预警网
The larger the coverage, the better the preparation.
外的，然后它是
And we can only give signal once that locality is included in the network. Like I said, we cover 2.2 million square kilometers, the largest one in the world. Only Japan and Mexico had the early warning system before us, so China was number 3. But now we are world leading.
如果要是真的是有地震来临的话，我们
So how does it work in the drill?
刚才听到通过大喇叭听到就是24，然后22这样倒计时。对，这个声音呢是
We heard about the countdown.
利用这种倒计时的方式，当倒计时
That countdown is part of the alarm.
这个声音
When the countdown ends,
真实地震，
the earthquake wave will be right below.
声音是一样的，是一致的，是一样的。我可以再给大家一会儿操作一下，然后但是声音是怎么样放？
I could
这个没关系，不会影响到学生正常上课。
operate the early warning system for you.
对，是这样的，就是这台设备的话，是今年7月份左右。
I see the records on the screen.
在出厂的时候，会有一些
In July, it was produced.
大的一些地震的一些记录在里面。然后今天这设备是
So in between the time, we make records of the previous earthquakes.
它的里面是这样的，其实操作起来非常简单。
I will show you the system. It's easy to operate.
屏幕两边
You click the mouse.
演示，然后一经演示就是
The first one is early warning exhibition. You can choose through countdown.
模拟的地震的强弱。
And I can put in the magnitude of this drill,
然后预警时间呢，刚才我们的
for example 6,
30秒左右。
and the time of warning, like 30 seconds.
咱们这个位置大概是
then it can calculate
的话，影响到弹挂而动的时候，大概有30秒钟的时间。
what is the center of the earthquake.
这个算出来的结果跟真实发生地震的情况是一样的。假如这个列表下面的这个区域发生地震了，对弹挂而动的时间也是在30秒。
If there is any earthquake in those places, like those one, usually it takes 30 seconds for early warning.
一旦发生了真实的地震，
对，
我们将会提前这个时间收到一个
So if there is a real earthquake, the system can calculate how much time is needed for the early warning based on the location of the center. Now you click yes. The volume is down, so the students will not be disturbed.
然后首先这个红色的五角星，
Now we hear the countdown,
那个地震的震中，
and you see the red point. That is the epicenter,
扩散的这个范围。
and the circle
当到
is about the scope of the seismic waves.
达咱们小房
When the countdown is over, the circle will touch our building.
就是我们逃生的这样的一个时间差。
这个时间差，而且
So that actually
逃生的情况还不一样的时候，咱们
the countdown time is the time we need for the escape. When we hear the countdown, we don't feel the waves yet. So it's quicker and safer to escape.
对，这个就不是。
If you already feel the wave and you
这
escape,
就是我们在直播
it's
最开始的时
not
候跟大家说的。
warning anymore, it's more dangerous.
测地震，但是能预警的话，哪怕10几秒的时间，你可以
Like I said, we cannot predict an earthquake, but the early warning may give you like 10 seconds to escape.
这样的一个案例。
Do you have any successful case of helping the escape with the system? We have some
在
videos.
您找视频，同时我们在聊一些刚才的预警啊，就是它这个时间的话是按我们所谓的这种
About the system.
演习的一个时间去不同学校不同设定的吗？
是这样的，这个预警时间是根据
Do you have customized
距离有关系，
我意思就是学校
design in different schools?
20秒。
这个跟那个是没有关系的。
For example, you can design 30 seconds or 20 seconds of countdown.
它的震中
No.
不等。
In the drills, you can design the countdown time, but in actual earthquakes, it's depending on the location of the epicenter. Now let's watch the videos.
报道，然后当会有当时
It's one news about the earthquake in Sichuan.
这是我们舞台历史3号。宜宾之前这个是我们四川。
这是关于地震警惕原始时
没事，那我们再
It's an introduction of the earthquake theories.
能够让我们看其他
Any case about schools?
的逃生的反应。
I want to see the actual escape in other schools. It's also an incident in Sichuan province this year.
4秒的预警吗？
14 seconds of early warning.
这是当时学校的自己的监控录下来的。
The video is from the camera on campus.
逃生的这个区域也是学校的体育场，是这样的一个。
They are also running to the
所以
playground.
刚刚我们很直观的能够感受到，提前10几秒真的是能够为抢救生命的时间去提供一个胜算。好，那谢谢。
We feel
谢
that
谢。好，
10 seconds matter
现在我们是不是就
to life and death. Thank you for your introduction.
现在我们是来到了我们
Principal Lee.
很神秘，但是
Hello
我们
everyone.
有传统的地震组的环节。这也是我们今天压轴的一个环节。
Now we come to the earthquake team, the mysterious
其
team.
实我们说了这么多关于地震的知识也好，
In Tanggu No. 2 Middle School,
练的这样的一个技能也好，
we taught so many knowledges about earthquake and we have so many drills,
一个传统，或者是学生们当时
and we can trace back to 40 years ago.
的故事背后的故事。李老师，我们讲。
Your school had a long tradition.
今天
Do you want to tell the story?
好，谢谢。
This way,
我带大家
please.
呢，咱们就去看一看我们学校当中的地震组。刚才
I will take you
向大家介绍了地震组，我们成立于
to meet our earthquake
当时
expert
其实
team.
是唐山大地震之
The team was built in 1975, right before the Tianjin earthquake. We built the team before 1976 when the big earthquake happened. So it came at the right time, and in Tanggu, there are about a dozen of monitoring sites, and our school was one of the sites. The team was composed of faculties. They measure the data and then submit the data to the earthquake offices, and they refer to our data. So it's like mobilizing more schools and grassroots organizations to collect the data. Starting from 1975, after our team was built, our school is committed to the work of earthquake rescue for 44 years, and we keep such measurement and monitoring. In Tianjin City and Binhainou area, that is a featured practice of our school. So the work is carried on till even today. This is the bronze statue of Chu Zijia. He was part of our school in 1956 and worked till he's 92 years old. That gentleman worked in the comprehensive building in the first floor. And he even lived on campus. We have the gardening group and the measurement group. Mr. Chu did a lot of jobs. You call him Grandpa Chu? That's a nickname. He's not just a technology tutor to the school. He's a teacher here. He's also a spiritual leader. That's why we made this statue for him. Years ago, he passed away. And as one founding father of the earthquake expert team, some of the students of Mr. Chu is already 70 or 80 years old, so they decided to build that statue for their tutor. And we will go to the exhibition hall for the team. The name of it is mysterious and magical, and that's the comments of Mr. Chu, saying that his whole life has been dedicated to the craftsmanship and to the campus. He's not a very famous geographical expert, but in Tanggu No. 2 Middle School, measuring earthquakes is a tradition. So it's epoch-making. Let me introduce. He holds the baton from Mr. Chu. That's Professor Guo from the team. He's also a geography teacher and also the tutor in the team. Mr. Guo takes the children to measure and monitor the earthquakes. Of course, the data we submitted to the Bureau will not be as valuable as before, but we are still carrying on the practice. And also, we want to cultivate the students in science. Now, this is the exhibition hall. This is a picture of Mr. Chu. CAST, China Association of Science and Technology, gave a very good high comment of Mr. Chu, saying that he is an expert that never fades away with the times. When I stepped in, it shocked me. There are so many unfamiliar gadgets. What are those? Now, I will pass the mic to Professor Guo for the introduction of those gadgets. Let's start from this one. It's called FD/105K. We use this to measure the composition of underground water. So, what is the relationship of such measurement with the earthquake? It's like there is a crack underground when the earthquake happens. The water is flowing and the pressure is up when the earthquake happens. And we measure the changes of the composition of underground water to measure the pressure changes. At some level, it will trigger the seismic changes. Do you monitor every day? Yes, every day. So it is of real significance. Yes, it's still realistic. It checks the fluid underground. It seems old. We used this instrument before 2003. But now there is no manufacturing of this equipment, so we cannot maintain the gadget anymore. That's the new generation. I guess the code is 3017. Those two are different. And it's still usable for this new one. So can you introduce how to use this gadget? I can operate it for you. Those two are from my geography class. That's the chip for measurement. What's it for? It can attach the composition. You cannot touch it. It's like a pump. Make it 100 ml. And pull this handle. You can count 30 seconds. In the 30 seconds, you let the air in. And you push the air into the measurement chamber. .30 seconds.
这是测量的，打开这个电源，高压，这样就可以这电线。
Now power on.
电分离器连着，高压3分钟自动，3分钟高压。
High voltage. 3 minutes of high voltage.
这个倒数还有挺高。
那这样的一个测量的结果多长时间能知道呢？
这是高压3分钟，测量3分钟。
高压3分钟，测量3分钟。
对。
哦，
3 minutes of high pressure and 3 minutes of measuring.
当时的结果就是
Then we get the result.
实际上这个是一个这个对吧？一个是年变，一个日变。如果高和低是都没有实际。
And then we can compare the results like yearly, daily. We will see the pattern. If there is sudden
它是要求的地下的
highs or lows, that indicates problems.
那是什么样的一个水源，或者是我们检测的这个水必须有什么样的一个要求？
它就是第一是检测地下水。
What is your threshold?
就每天就在往外抽啊，在用。
We examine underground water.
这样呢，
We
就是拿
pump the underground water every day.
地下的活动是比较紧密。
那这样的一个考虑是为什么？
So we must choose underground water.
监测你要是一个水不变的话，它成分是不怎么变。这样老在用。
If the water is still, the composition will not change much. So since the underground is changing, the underground water is changing, we can examine the changes in the water.
现在就主要是
What is the daily job of your team now?
下项，而且学生呢活动就每周
Mainly checking the underground water.
看数据。
Every week we have an activity for the students. On a daily basis, we deal with the data.
3次，学生就叙述现在这个条件达不达到，
Some of the students stay on campus.
太危险了。
但是我们定期还会有这样的活动在进行下去。
有啊，咱们学校非常重视，用的这个实际上这叫
So the tradition is carried on.
门口有影像，看，而且作为我们学校一个
You must see the statue.
教育德育教育的一部分。
It's one special feature of our school. It's also part of our education to the students. I have a question. In addition to such measurement, do you have other measurements?
你看咱们做的
There are a lot of monitoring methods of earthquake.
刚才您说这个没有，
But for our school, we check the composition of underground water and the
那我们
electrician conduction.
一个会商，
Every month,
一个是对
we will have a meeting
地震办公室啊，对地震办。
with the Earthquake Bureau. Time is up.
这个芯片拿出来以后要放个个儿，
Now I take the chip out and flip it over and put it into that gadget within the first 15 seconds. And after 3 minutes, we will get the result.
他们到迷彩地震台，
As I said, we have meetings.
他们
We go to Binhai Earthquake
结合学校。
Bureau. We give them data.
就是第一是结合学校资源，给学生搞活
其
动。
实最开始我们是贡献了很多的力量，但是现在我们把它变成
So
一个传统。
you contributed a lot, and now you carry on the tradition.
现在就心理调
It's like an interest group.
这样。
但是地震小组的这种兴趣小组
Yes.
第一次见，也很感谢关老师对我们的介绍，谢谢您。
It's the first time for me to meet such an interest group in the field of earthquakes. Thank you for your introduction.
非常的大，我们在这里再为大家进行一下
So today, this live show is very informative. I would love to organize today's show for you. We learned about escaping in the high buildings, what is the safe corridor for escaping.
的危险性一定要到
Try to
电线杆很少。
go to the open space
那么另外就是掌握
with
急救
less
这
poles
样的一些常识。
like
那么在学校
play-
今天
playground.
选择的
Also, we learned about first aid and self-protection measures.
地震小组的兴趣
We also watched their
对地震这个自然
earthquake drill and visited this exhibition hall of the earthquake expert team. I believe you must have a fresh idea of earthquake. disaster is terrible. But once we learn about first aid and self-rescue, they will be safer future. Thank you for watching.